I am not like my mother. That's what I told myself for years. But maybe this Mother's Day is time to look back and see how much we actually might be like our mothers, as well as why we might be afraid to be like them. Now that was the core idea I had for my Toastmasters speech. I'm not my mother. If you don't know what Toastmasters is an organization that's been around for about 100 years, since like 1924. Beginning, it was a bit of a good old boys, type of organization, but over time it did change and women were able to do it in many different ages. This is an organization that helps the average person by giving them a safe place to practice speechcraft, as well as learn what it takes to be a leader in your community. Now, the reason I decided to go to Toastmasters was my dad talked me into it, really. At first, my thought of Toastmasters was probably just a bunch of old geezers dressing up all fancy and talking long-winded speeches about how great they were. That's basically my idea of Toastmasters was. I couldn't have been further from the truth. But when I started my YouTube channel, I knew I had to have some pointers because, well, I was getting kind of long-winded and I had a tendency to ramble and go off onto tandems. So my hopes with Toastmasters would be that I wouldn't get lost in my speeches and I'd be able to communicate better. That's when I realized that there was more to Toastmasters than I thought. We had teenagers to retirees, all with different experiences that they were bringing to the table. From authors, to ghost hunters, to comedians, to your just average everyday people who wanted to be able to speak better, to communicate, and to be able to express themselves so others could understand them. You don't have to pay anything to go to a Toastmasters in your community. You can go to any of them and just, sit back and watch some speeches, evaluations, and get some tips to help you along your path, as well as participate in the table topics. So, you can learn how to do spur-of-the-moment type of talks, very short talks as well. But if you want to be a full member, it costs about $60 every 6 months, which is about $10. They have some other fees in as well, but it's like $20 a month or so, if that. And you get access to their base camp educational system, which is, computer-based as well as having the live Toastmasters. Some of them you can do also on video or Skype as well as access to all the different speeches national. Once you get started, you do your icebreaker, which is about a 7-minute speech, which kind of introduce yourself to the rest of the group. In my case, it was my welcome to the painful life. I am Payne. And it was basically how I got my YouTube channel named The Painful Life. Spoiler alert, it was an abbreviation of a trucker handle, Panassus. But I didn't think that'd go over well, especially to how it's spelled. If you're interested in an icebreaker and, what's expected, I'll be more than happy to do a video about that. Just let me know in the comments. Excuse me if you hear any creaking. I have a very old house and my dad's walking upstairs. Now, I am not my mother's speech was for my vocal variety. I can't even say it when I'm reading it. It was for my vocal variety and body language. I'm totally, hey, dude, freaking marble mouth. Now, if you're wondering why I chose a poem about my mother, it was because I was going through therapy, basically. And I had been thinking a lot of how long I had avoided anything to do with my mom or anything that she enjoyed doing. I'd always find a reason that, I'm not good enough to do it. Because if I enjoyed doing it, that meant I might be crazy. I might have a manic episode or something like that. And so I avoided anything that was artistic for a very long time because my mother was very artistic. But especially these last 2 years, I started redoing my life, starting new channels. Also was late diagnosed ADHD, also doing premenopause, so I was already thinking I was pretty much crazy, so why not learn how to do art and write? Because I actually found out I enjoyed that type of stuff. And as I started writing the poem, it kind of changed into something more than just writing a poem about my mom and how much I'm not like her. It started to be a poem about love, understanding, and sacrifices we make for those that we love. So welcome to Toastmasters, and this is my speech. I am not my mother. My mother was an artist. She could draw anything. Till the lithium and the Depakote had her hands shaking so bad she lost the ability to draw. My mother was a writer. She could pull stories out of thin air. Some of her best stories were in the midst of a manic episode. I am not like my mother. You see, my mother was bipolar. Most of her episodes were manic, but once in a while she'd fall into depression and paranoia. And those were the hardest times. You see, I am not like my mother. My mother had a great support group. My grandmother, my aunts, my cousins were always there to keep an eye on her. But most of all, my father. My dad was by her side from the very beginning to the very end. In her darkest times, she would ask, "Why have you stayed with me all these years?" And his reply was always the same. "I vowed to love you forever. And forever is a very long time." Now, my mother and father met at an American Fork training school where they cared for special needs children and adults. From the time she brought him home to meet her parents, and my grandpa gave him a sucker thinking he was one of her special boys, not one of her co-workers, until her last days, where he stood by her side as she faded away and was no longer the person she once was. My father was there. Family members, friends, neighbors, co-workers were always there to keep an eye out for her when she turned into Mrs. Coca-Cola and drive to the airport to pick up God. She's done that. Or when she'd grab an exercise ball, one of those huge ones, and take it to an 80-year-old because she was concerned she didn't get enough exercise with her walker at 4 a.m. Thank God for understanding friends. Yeah. I'm not like my mother. I love my mother. My mother was 1 in a million. But I'm not like my mother. At least that's what I told myself, because I was afraid. I was afraid I was too much like my mother. It took me years to find my creative soul, because if I could draw, that meant I was bipolar. If I could write, that meant I was going to have a manic episode. And if I had friends, I would let them down. So I isolated myself. I found a job where I was just too busy to think. I kept moving and never stopping. At first, it was a good fit for me. I got to travel all over the U.S. and sometimes even other countries. Loved Canada. It was awesome. I got paid to see family. I just pick a destination, grab my load, and go. A couple years after my grandmother's passing, it was time for me to make the decision to move back home. For that time, my mom was in need of brain surgery. For years, she told the doctors that something was wrong. But the answer that kept coming back from them was, "It's your medication." Until that fateful Super Bowl night when she had a mini stroke, and finally the doctors listened. Had they done that CAT scan that they'd asked for years before, we wouldn't have gotten the news that part of her frontal lobe had atrophied and that she would slowly decline and develop dementia. So just like many years before, I made the decision to move back home. I didn't have kids. I can find a trucking job just about anywhere. We had 5 more good years with my mother. And in that time, she finished her book, Memories of Yesterday. That last week, the nurses said we had maybe a day left with my mom. Even though she could not speak, she decided to prove everyone wrong. She was bound and determined to hold on until her middle daughter could fly back home from Wisconsin to see her one last time, as well as every single family member and friend. She stayed with us for a full week. Everybody got a chance to say goodbye. And with each one, she gave a sign, a hand squeeze, a smile. Even at the very end, through every labored breath, she held on until finally I took my father aside and said, "She's holding on for you. You need to tell her you're going to be okay." And as he bent low over her bed, he softly whispered to her, "I vow to love you forever, and forever is a very long time. You can go. I will be all right." And within 15 minutes, she was gone. For many years, I told myself I am nothing like my mother. But maybe, just maybe, I'm enough like my mother. I have a creative soul. With every drawing, I feel her sitting with me. With every word written, I hear her cheering me on. Mom, I am proud to be like you. And as Dad says, I vow to love you forever. And forever is a very long time. So thank you for joining me this Mother's Day. And to all my mothers, young and old, just remember how much of an impact you are on your children. We are always here watching and learning from you. Sometimes it takes us years to realize the impact you've had on our lives. If you're interested in my mother's book, I'll leave a link in the description. And if you have a story about your mother and the impact she had on your life, please leave a memory in the comments and share. I'd love to hear from it. I'll love you all. I'll see you next time.
All right, do that again, Mother.
Encore!
Encore!
Sing it! Encore.
Sing it! Sing it!
Sing it!
Come on, sisters.
Sisters, there were never such devoted sisters. When a certain gentleman arrived from Rome, he wore the dress and I stayed home, sharing, carrying every little thing that we are wearing.
You see where she has her hand?
But no, not me. Lord, help the sister that comes between me and my sisters and Lord. That comes between me and my girl.
Okay.